Welcome, everybody. This is The Conscious View. I'm Tamara, and this is my co-host, co-creator.
Hello, world. This is Ogana, and we're gonna have a beautiful episode for you. I hope that you enjoy it and that it brings a little bit of light into your life.
Yes, today's episode, we are going to be going into our origin stories of sorts. We're going to be introducing who we are as souls and introducing what brought us to where we are now, why we've come to co-create this conscious view, where we share information for you guys to digest and integrate into your own lives and find value, hopefully.
Definitely, that's the nickname that I have for the light is the value. It's like value. I
Yeah.
think the energetic level is this beautiful light, and as you said, like where we're at right now on our spiritual journey, like it's a spiritual journey, and I believe it's not just where we're at right now, it's also like where we're going. You know what I mean? It's like it's realizing that this is a continuous journey. So
Yes.
for me, at least, that's kind of the kind of questions that I'm going to be asking. I'm not just going to be asking about the past, but also about some of the future.
Right. Well, and I'm going to kind of go with a more free flow. And as we go, that will definitely trigger us to like where we will be going into the future, where you're going to be going. That's something that I think our viewers should understand is that
Yeah.
it is a spiritual practice. It is not spiritual perfect. We are by no means trying to show that we are more enlightened or better than anybody else. We're just sharing information. We are the same as you. We are going through this. We feel the energies. We feel the transits. We feel the fluctuations, and we are triggered just as much as anybody. We have past things that we're dealing with, current things that we're dealing with, karmas that we're dealing with. It's just a journey that we want to share because we feel that we have been called to do so. And when your soul has a purpose, you can't ignore it, or else you suffer from the pain of ignoring that. So yeah, and that's something that I came to learn with probably within the past couple years is don't deny your call. Life can get really uncomfortable when you don't step into your light.
Definitely. Do you want me to start with the questions?
Sure, I'll go first. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, and I want to kind of like when I'm asking you all of these questions, I want the audience to also tune in for themselves and kind of like think for themselves about their own answer if they were to be the one who's being interviewed. Um, okay, so my first question is, do you believe in reincarnation in general? Before we
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a believer who subscribes to there's infinite amount of realities. So anything conceivable exists somewhere. I personally subscribe to the thoughts of reincarnation. So therefore, the dynamics and philosophies applied to that belief affect my life because I choose that reality.
Okay, so kind of like this is the second part of the first questions, and I'm just giving myself like six questions to ask you. We want to keep the time to 45 minutes. Should we do an hour or like 45 minutes?
I think we should aim for 45 minutes and leave room for a little bit extra. If I like that 15 minutes of playing time, I think that that's important. If it goes over, it goes over.
Yeah.
It's not like a
So
set in stone. Yeah.
so I'm just gonna keep an eye on my clock and just 20 minutes for me and then 20 minutes for you.
Well, and
So
even if we decide to do this in a two-parter because it ends up just
oh no,
being,
I
that's
think
fine too.
we have this magic about time. For some reason, it expands within itself and find it's like
Yes.
just with the live the other day, and we're like, um, you told me, oh, let's go into silence, but I told you at the end of it, we're just gonna like do silent meditation, And you're
Yeah.
like, let's do that. And I look at the time, it's only 15 minutes. And I'm like, girl, we still can't have time to talk. So I love this magic that we have.
Yes,
Um,
me too. Me too.
okay, so the second part of the question is, now that you told me that you believe in reincarnation, how many lifetimes do you remember having before this one?
Okay. The only one that I can, not only one, I have a handful of ones that I can go back and pull memories from that I don't actually have to go into meditation. So there's one in ancient Egypt, one in Southern Carolina. Um, there was one in France, like in the time of the Renaissance. There's one in Lemuria. And then there's one like in a prehistoric, I couldn't tell you the time, like caveman kind of stuff. I have familiarities in my heart space with many different lifetimes, but I don't think that I've come to Earth a lot. And I think that's why without meditation, I can't trigger memories from other galaxies because it's just a different frequency than what my human vessel can comprehend.
Mm, cool. I kind of like resonate with the definitely I resonate with the ancient Egypt, Lemuria, which I'm not sure because I'm kind of like I'm not sure if Atlantis and Lemuria were the same thing or are they two separate things?
They're two
Um,
separate things. Lemuria was also known as Mu, like Mu. One
mm,
was in the Pacific, one was in the Atlantic Ocean or around that area. So they were on separate ends. But Atlantis, though I am intrigued because it's an intriguing subject, I don't have a pull towards it. I don't have dreams of it. Lemuria is something that I dream of a lot, and I would
mm,
love to know more. It's not something that I've done extensive research into yet, because that takes a lot of meditation and going there and then recording. It's a process to figure those out. I personally like my past life memories, past experience memories to come organically. I try not to rush them. I wait till I get signs to look into something before I do. Just like we had said in our previous podcast, when the soul's not ready, like we can't comprehend it. So when you push to try to know something that it's not at your highest good, it's not for your highest purpose at that moment, it makes it harder to obtain anyways. So when it flows naturally and you start getting signs and you start getting dreams, it's almost like not permission, but it's like light codes. You've been triggered to know that right now.
yeah. Oh, deep. We're already too deep.
Oh, we cannot have Virgo deep enough.
Okay, so the next question that I have is um short and sweet, but this you're gonna like take your sweet time answering it. But the question is, at which age do you remember starting to have a deeper soul consciousness, not just like physical consciousness like this is who I am, but like soul consciousness, awakenings, psychic experiences, whatever dreams, and if you can share one of those stories with us.
Okay. I can't remember a time where I wasn't. As far as living the truth, that's different. But knowing that there was something more is something I was born with. As a child, my family, everybody around me was like, oh, you are so smart. You can do anything. You can be a doctor. You could do this. And I always was like, well, yes, I get that I'm capable of anything, but what am I here to do? What does God want me to do? I used the word God at that time because I grew up in a Catholic influenced family. My mom never forced us to practice, but from a very early age, I had a purpose. I just didn't know what it was. And honestly, it took me 30 plus years to find it. I knew that I was given a gift of being able to relate to many different people. My mom always said that I was just always a shining star. Like, she always said I was trying to just uplift people all the time, make people happy. That was just who I was. So that sense of purpose and curiosity for the esoteric is just something I was born with. And I remember going to church because I wanted to, not because my family made me go, but I was always searching for what was I supposed to be doing.
I love that. This is so beautiful. Definitely resonate. Definitely resonate with that. And I know that a lot of people are going to be resonating with that too. I love that your mother did not push you to, to practice. For me, it was kind of like a bit different. I had to do it.
That's actually one of my questions. So since we're on the topic, I'm going to ask you the question is, how strict was your religious culture in your life, and when did you start resisting it?
Let's see. Of course, it's very strict. If people don't know and they're just tuning in, I'm in the Middle East, in Saudi, which is Saudi Arabia is the most strict countries, and a lot of dark things happen in the name of religion. People don't want to say that, and people who are from there and they're going to listen to this are going to be definitely objecting on what I'm saying, or maybe they would agree, but on a psychic level it is a very, very difficult place to live. I mean, everyone knows it's a war on to begin with, and so I've lived that in the 80s. I was born in the 80s, and just before that, in the 70s, where families were like, Middle East was like pretty much open. People have been like, yes, they have this beautiful religion, but people are not that strict about it. So I kind of like witnessed that transition of with certain cults coming in at in the political view, and how much it was affecting that. Growing up, there was a war definitely in the country where on the side like where I was, and so that affects you. Like you have to take sides when you grow up, and there are all of these intense polarities, and wars are happening in the countries just next to you, and everyone is like we did not as a country get that much affected. We were one of the safest countries because I was, lucky that the defense for the country was, strong.
Mm-hmm.
But they were involved in sending armies and stuff to fight wars, in the neighboring countries, and that definitely it definitely has to shape your personality, definitely.
And when did you
so,
start resisting it, though? Like, when did you realize that the religious dogma that was being applied to your life wasn't comfortable for you? Like, when did you start questioning? I imagine you questioned at a young age.
Yeah. No, at a young age, I feel like it did not matter to me much at a young age. I was just at that time taking sides, especially that I had other, I had friends. The only friends that I had growing up were people from these neighboring countries who fled their own homes to have a safe place in Saudi Arabia where I am. And so they've always told me that I'm privileged, that I'm lucky, while I'm telling them, no, I feel like I want to travel the world, and I feel like things are exciting out of this country. You know what I mean? I just feel like I want to travel and see more of the world, and I've just naturally had an open-mindedness about me, But I didn't have that much knowledge. There was not much knowledge available, media for the internet. It was just the media, what it shows on TV and whatever they write on the papers, and there is no space. There's no open-mindedness or space to choose your thoughts. The only thing you choose is a certain ideology that you support, like a certain side that you take, which is a certain political party, and that's it. There wasn't much room for creative thinking. And when I left the house to get a job in another city, and I disconnected from my family, that's when I began my mind was able to just decide for my own self and have the creative experience. So
Oh
that's
my
how.
goodness. So was
Mhm.
it, oh my goodness, that is like in my mind, I just envision like somebody who grew up in a tribe and then going to a city and is just exposed to all this knowledge and just is like, wait a minute here, this is so white when I was given black and I didn't even know I was black because there was no contrast. You were just submersed in this one view for so long with no exposure. Like, I think that's something us in the Western world forget, that we have this privilege and this blessing to access any information that we want. Like, it's at our fingertips, but there's still places in the world where information is being repressed and it's not free. Wow. Thank you for that mirror. That's powerful.
And
Really
you
powerful.
know what? It's like now the internet changed everything. I mean, in the 80s, when in the 90s, when I was a teenager and the internet was introduced to the scene. Now it's opened up space, because even as girls and boys would not have the ability to talk to conversate with each other.
Wow.
So yeah, it was like, that's it. Once you get into puberty age, the woman has to be separate. At least that's how I experienced it. Some privileged families, they still, allow the cousins to still talk to each other. But
Wow.
for my family, we were separate and so I was able to talk to guys now.
Wow. Wow. I can't imagine how hard it would be to try to balance masculine and feminine energies when that's the what you were used to. Like, oh, so interesting. It is so interesting. I think that that's something that is going to be unique to our channel that nobody else really has, is how different your experience of awakening was and the consequences of it and the challenges that you had. I'm just going to go with some of the questions I wanted to go with, and we'll just go back and forth because it's free flowing. I'm loving how it's going right now. But, us in the Western world, we have this desire to find our purpose, and then we have to face this fear of actually stepping into our light, stepping into our purpose, following through, doing the actions. And there's a lot of fear that comes with that. But your challenges had to have been extremely unique considering the culture that you were brought up in. What was the most challenging thing you had to face putting yourself out there to speak your truth?
Let's see. Yeah, definitely the top of my, like, the first thing that I know for sure, it's that thing that I already talked about, that there is no space. And I'm an empath. I feel energy so much, and I feel like psychic stuff that are going on, and the density. Just talking about it now, like the density. It's like you see it. And they try to come here, they would know what I'm talking about. But the density, the heaviness in the air itself is just unreal. Yeah, and you can feel me just putting into it and talking about it.
Oh, I know. I can actually feel this weight on my energetic field even when you mention it, because here in the Western world, we're like, oh, it's so 3D, lower vibrations.
You didn't even see 3D.
Could you imagine being somewhere like that is so restrictive and so limiting? It's interesting.
And it's like, yeah, this density of, like, people just close and like, and I'm someone who's a creative. I discovered that I'm creative. I love arts and all expressions of arts, not just like drawing stuff and like all expressions of art and creativity. I really appreciate it, and so it was really, really, it was a challenge that everyone around me, there's so much limited, space for creativity the way that I wanted to express it. It was like,
Mhm.
no, you can just like do it in the kitchen, create like a new recipe, or like, maybe you should create a clothing line or whatever. It's like, it is so, it took me a while until I was able to experience all different creative stuff and decide that's the kind of thing that I want for my life. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
really get out of that conformity of what society is just like providing you, and create your own path. I think that's something that is definitely in my life purpose, and hopefully I did well.
I think you've done
Creating
extremely well,
this.
extremely well. Um, it's a marvel to witness, to be honest. Um,
Oh,
it is. It truly is. It's interesting. No
beautiful.
matter what culture you grow up in, I find that that is a common social construct that everybody needs to work at dissolving, is what society has told you to be. Everybody,
Mm,
no matter where they've been, society has told them who they should be and how they should act. And that is one of the hardest things to dissolve, is that self-fulfilling prophecy that you unconsciously adopted because you were born into a culture like that. And it's hard to let go. And there's really no linear path towards doing that, because it's so subjective to each one of us that each one of us has to find our own way to do it.
uh, yeah, and it's so sweet. Like it's a challenge, as we said, and once you overcome it, it's like it's worth it. All of the inner work that and internal work, that the effort that I had to put, also in the 3D to make it happen. Um, the shadow work, it's all worth it, and it feels like victorious. I feel like victory.
Absolutely. That leads me to another question. Do you ever have moments of doubt where you think, okay, let me just backtrack a little bit and explain the forefront of my question. Because I grew up in a Catholic influenced environment, I went to Catholic schools, Christianity, any of that was really prevalent in my life. And according to them, what we are doing isn't,
Mm.
it's sinful and
No.
damning, etc. So, do you ever have moments where you think, what if my religion is right? And how do you deal with them? I shouldn't say your
Oh,
religion, the religion that
mm,
influenced your life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, definitely for me, the beginning of my awakening, if you would, and remembering like me myself as a soul instead of just this human being who belongs to a certain family and belongs to a certain country. I started realizing I'm a soul that is going through a bath, a soul bath that has a purpose, that was put for a reason. That changed everything for me. I mean, I can go into like details and stuff like that, but I had like depression, like
Mhm.
dark moments of depression where I would just pray. The only thing that I could do is pray to
Mhm.
God, and I would just like, instead of like doing the traditional prayers that I was, that I was told that I should say this and that. I
Mhm.
let go of that, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna talk to God the way that I want to talk to him, her, it.
Yeah.
And I just started saying that and I feel like when I did that, I released my ego somehow.
Mm.
But I said, like, I'm done with this life. I'm done with everything. This is difficult. I can't take it. I just like, just I take my own life because I can't kill myself. And that moment, that night, I was on the floor of my room, crying, alone in the dark. Something told me, close your eyes and just relax, because I was just
Mm.
like crying like really intensely. I just stop, just try to stop. This voice did not suggest that I should stop crying, but it just told me just relax and close your eyes. And
Mhm.
for a moment, I did that. And at that moment, I think it was the beginning of like an answer, the prayer being answered. Probably angels have been telling me that. I close my
Mhm.
eyes and I see this vision of a person with like a rainbow. The person was transparent, and they had like I could see their blood, and their blood is not blood vessels, it's kind of like a rainbow.
Mhm.
Like each vessel has a different color of rainbow, and it's moving really fast. And I had this vision, and it was like, what did I see? And that was the first time that my third eye awakened. I Google, what does it mean to see a person who's transparent and has rainbow blood or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And when I write that in the beautiful Google, it tells me Guru Rinpoche, the second Buddha, the rainbow body.
Mhm.
That's one of the, search results. And then I'm
Wow.
like, and I've never learned. I mean, this type of people here are very strict. They don't really talk about religion. They just tell you, oh, they're all liars, they're all sinners. You're the only one who has the truth within you, and you should tell them. You should, if you meet anyone who's a different religion, you should just try to convert them as much as you can. That's the only thing that I.
Yeah.
But so I learned by myself. I'm like, the second Buddha, when I was crying, asking God for guidance, God gave me this second Buddha to show me in my, my vision, and I need to check. There's truth in there. And ever since that time, I trusted that voice. I trusted my visions, and that was the big jump for me. I realized, you know what? All these religions were just wisdom teachers coming in, sharing their wisdoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That is so opposite of my own experience because, like I said, my mom never forced me to go to church.
Yeah.
I always had this curiosity. If I wanted to go to church, I did. If I wanted to practice whatever, she let me do whatever. And I've always been on a quest. I was actually really rooted in Catholicism as a child, and it was what I was exposed to. And I was even studying to become like an altar girl who serves during Mass every week. And it was probably weeks around there before I was going to have my final test, where I was having a conversation with my brother, who was my everything growing up. He was my world. And he's like, oh, well, I don't believe in God. And I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. And I experienced such cognitive dissonance. I remember feeling like inside, like everything crumbling. And I was just like, wait a minute, if my brother doesn't believe in God, he's not going to heaven. And if my brother's going to heaven, I don't want to go. And that didn't make any sense to me because my brother was the best person in the world, way better than I was. How am I getting into heaven and he's not? And that's when I really started questioning everything. But I went on this mission to find truth, and I studied so many different religions and practices and philosophies, and there's truth in all of them. And the common denominator was love each other, be kind. Common denominator in all religions. That's it.
So true.
Pretty easy, but there's truths in all, and they're beautiful in their own ways. And I'm very lucky to have had such a kaleidoscope of experiences with different ones that I didn't really need such a strong awakening to question whether or not I believed in anything, I guess. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, for me, also like being in the Islamic, the strict Islamic, growing up like a strict Muslim, and I've been really good at. We have like these 5 times a day prayers that you shouldn't ever miss, and even if you were sleeping and you missed it, you have to like make it up and like pray 2 times. And so I've been like really strict with that, and I also had visions and awakenings during like practicing like the Muslim prayer. And that's when I, all of these, different, the visions that I have is just so intense. But there were also like, I needed that time. That's what I love about, the practices, and I still do like spiritual practice, because it makes this space for you to receive the divinations. And then I realized, oh, there's this whole thing also that's called divinations, where you can connect to God in different ways. And I'm like, the world is my oyster. I really so open to experience all of these different spiritual, practices and because they're so different.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And yet so common though, because
Yeah. Yeah, the
even
goal is one, it's just connect, big space, virtual.
yeah, and there's like that's what I've started to come to really appreciate people who are very dedicated to their faith, no matter what it is. Now that I have found a spiritual practice that I love and it resonates with my heart to be true, all I want to do is spiritual stuff. I want to be, at my altar, and I want to be giving honor and loving life and just devoting myself to this higher source energy. And I get that. And I get that it comes in many different forms. For people who are extreme Buddhists, like that's the state they're in. They are just loving everything and devoting themselves to the source. And no matter what name you call it, devotion to something higher than you is a beautiful thing. And I really truly think that, especially in Western world, a great deal of issues is because we've forgotten about that as we shy away from religions. Maybe the religions aren't working, but that missing key of spirituality is super important, because we are, at the core of it, we're energy, we're souls in these human bodies, and we need to recognize and honor that. And it wasn't until I truly started adopting a spiritual path that any sort of mental illness, medical illness, any sort of sickness at all couldn't touch me. Like before I truly started devoting myself, I had so many physical health problems. I've dealt with mental health issues my whole life. And truly now I know I just had this phenomenal sensitivity to the world around me that most people weren't privy to. And that didn't make me sick. It just made me different. And I just needed to find ways to do it. And the best way to deal with it was by surrendering to the source.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so big. And I was just going to ask you, one of my questions is like, at which point did you intentionally decide that you're going to be devoted, like, devote your own?
Honestly, a year ago is when I started walking the walk. I have been gathering energy. I've always been a love light and synchronicities and law of attraction, but truly actually applying it, truly doing the work, looking in the mirror, realizing what I contribute to my life, owning my power came after the darkest night of my soul I ever experienced happened last January.
Yeah.
And I needed it. Oh my gosh, everything in my life, my foundations needed to crumble. The incident that happened was so disruptive. No matter what had happened in my life, this thing was there. It was steady. No matter what I dealt with, no matter what turmoil and trauma I dealt with, this thing was steady for 20 plus years. It was all that I knew. And it was destroyed overnight. Wow. And I literally was stripped of absolutely everything that made me me. Anything that I had related to, anything that I had believed in, anything that I practiced, it was gone with that thing. I was left with nothing. And it was this dark shadow. And within this nothing, the only thing, like, it took me a long time. Well, I guess not that long. It took me a couple weeks to find a reason to realize that within the nothing, I need to be the light. Within this, it's me who's the light, and I had to rebuild. And I started really looking in the mirror and saying, okay, if I'm rebuilding, I'm doing this right. And I'm going to look at all the nasty things that I'm capable of, all the things that I've brought into my life that are my responsibility that I've blamed others for. Really, truly owning my stuff, looking at it, dealing with it, transmuting it, and forgiving myself. And then I started walking the walk. Once I started walking the walk and I realized how powerful I was, there was a pivotal moment where my friend Sylvia and I, we just looked at each other. We'd been watching these Victor Odo and Aaron Doughty videos, and it was all about, like, you create your own reality and this, that, whatever. And I understood it. I got it. But did I truly get the concept of it? I'm not sure until this moment where I looked at Sylvia. I'm like, we say we hate our town and that we can never find things. I'm like, Sylvie, we're manifesting everything. And we just realized our perspective was ruining our own lives. And literally overnight, everything changed. We didn't get a new job. We didn't get a new house or a fancy car. We just realized that if we wanted life to be beautiful, we just had to realize it was. And then all of a sudden, the more we realized how life was beautiful and started showing all this gratitude, the momentum was like it was like that arrow being shot forward with such speed that it just all came together, and I was able to really embrace it and become it. And I stopped denying my truth and realized that I'm a spiritual person and I want to be a light. That's what I'm here to do, is to shine.
I am so thankful for that moment because that's what brought us together.
That is so true. And like all of it led up. And in the past year, I don't know if it has been for you, but as the seeds are starting to burst from the soil, I've looked at my life and realized that some of these seeds were planted when I was a child. There were books that I read when I was 10 that I realized made me interested in the esoteric medicine, shamanism, witchery, magic, that kind of stuff. It was planted forever ago and it's just growing now. And if our viewers can get anything, is it takes time to grow your garden, and just allow it to be. Allow it to be. It's going to take time and it will be divine the way it is, because that's the way it was supposed to be. Just surrender, let it be, you know?
Exactly. We're taken care of in ways that we can't even imagine. I love that. I love that so much. Everything that you said, and it just definitely for me is like that moment when I let go. I love that what you said about it. It's like that moment when it just an overnight, like you just let go of your ego, literally.
Yeah.
That's me. It's like that moment when I decided I want to leave, it was symbolic, it was metaphoric, because I was saying the universe knows, God knows. And what I really meant when I said I want to just let go of this life, of course, life is eternal; it will never end, it cease to ever, exist. God knew that I believe is my ego, but I did not consciously have the knowledge, time to do that. To like, oh, now I'm gonna really go. I didn't have that ability or that knowledge. 2014. When I did that, it led me to releasing my ego. And I mean, who is better than the Buddha to teach you that?
Yeah.
And I remember when I realized like this is the Buddha, I'm like, well, come visit me. I don't even believe in him, but and then I learned that the one big message of Buddhism, and how they did this metta meditations of like just giving, shining, radiating, just sitting there meditating and radiating the light through the universe. And I knew that moment, this guru or this, this being, this beautiful soul, this beautiful ascended master, literally lived and embodied the light so much that he's still hovering there in the astral world. And that's, I was lucky enough to release my ego. I somehow was in my astral body, and I caught a glimpse of enlightenment at that moment. And that's where of course, I was devoted to spirituality more than I wouldn't say that I was Buddhist, but I started devoting myself to spirituality more than I did just, religion. I started learning more and more and more.
I have a suggestion, and see if you resonate with this. I love what we're talking about right now, gurus who showed us the way and surprising ones. And I think that would be a really great topic for next week, that we go into spiritual teachers that brought us out of our ego deaths, out of our dark nights of the soul, that led us here. I think that would be lovely to hear about the different people that influenced one another. Yes.
Right. So another question, probably the last question for now. I have two questions, so I'm just gonna ask you, see quickly what you like. Do you want to talk about the inspiration behind like your social work right now, of the social media in general, or do you want to talk about the future vision for humanity?
I don't know if we have time for the future vision of humanity.
from your perspective, you know what I mean? It's just like from your own point of view.
Oh, the future of
Or should we just
humanity is
let me say the question. It
no,
says,
no,
what
it's a good
is
question. I just
the
don't know if
vision?
I can sum it up. I think that one might be too long. So maybe let's go with the other one. I think that that's a
Okay.
whole topic in its own.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, like I'm kind of like gonna change it into what is your vision for your own personal soul journey? Do you think that you're gonna have another lifetime on Earth or in another place, or just go back to source and completely let go of your personal self? Like, what is gonna happen, do you think?
I actually have thought about this many times since I was very young. Probably
Oh,
about 11 years old, I started realizing that this is probably one of my last hurrahs, especially on Earth, because
mm,
I've signed up for many, many hard trials and tribulations because it's almost like graduating year for me. And I have to
yeah.
catch up on all those other things that I missed out on in my past lives. I've always felt this urgency that this is so important and I need to get so much accomplished because this is the last time I have that urge. Last time here, anyways, on Earth. My galactic family, whom I conversate with through meditation, a lot of the times, I don't think I actually was going to come back. I think it was an impromptu kind of emergency intervention. And sometimes
Mm,
they're like, you didn't have to, like they support me through it, but they do like
yeah.
say like, this was a choice that you made, but why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? You knew that it was going to be hard, and not in like a non-supporting
Yeah.
way, but in a joking way. Like, well, you knew it was going to be hard this time at this level. So they will be happy to have me there permanently, instead of hopping around. I have soul family that misses my presence. Yeah.
For me, I would say that it's oh, sorry, I asked myself the question, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, please do. I want to hear it too. Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's I've kind of like went into the future and I've seen stuff, and I'm so confused. Like the way that I saw it, like, is this my future self in this timeline, or is it another future, or is it a memory of time that was just so amazing? Like it's like probably like a past memory of a time where it was one of these beautiful ancient civilizations where it was so advanced that it looks so advanced, even though it was in the past, but it was so advanced.
Are you sure that wasn't
So I
Lemuria?
had, I'm not sure, but the two of the visions that I have was both of them had like this pink feel to it. It
Mm.
felt like, it's like a pink, I don't know, it's like either another time on Earth where truly like new Earth, like I feel like I saw a new Earth, what it
Yeah,
could look like the Garden of Eden. It's so true. Heaven is like it's Earth itself.
it
It's just
is. It
about
is. It's
us,
right here.
and it's
Um,
just a matter of us like raising that vibration for it to be in its best potential.
See, and like when I dream of New Earth, when I finally realized that's what I was dreaming of, it's so inclusive
Mm.
that everybody's there. It's not like a lifetime here. It's almost like all of us together in one
Uh,
place and across the universes. It's not just Earth. It's
wow.
us going to join everybody else in this beautiful
Wow. I love
Garden of
that.
Eden is definitely a word I would use, but yet so technologically advanced. So, but
Mm.
in
And
harmony with like
organic.
plants, it's so amazing. I wish I could plug in to my brain so I could show our viewers,
Mm.
the
Yeah,
dreams
one of the things that I saw was gigantic trees, like
Yes,
really, really big
yes,
trees that are
yes.
like exactly like they talk about like how billions of years when life started on Earth, the Earth, trees were just so huge, and
Right.
So that's why I feel like the pink clouds all the time. Like it's kind of like the sunset time is like so slow, and it's like probably like it takes 8 hours of the day instead of just being one quick hour. But the sun is different. The sun itself, the sky itself is different. It's not just the earth that it's different. And it
It's
feels so good, and I honestly want to experience it.
yes. Well, and like, thank goodness we get to do that in our dreams. Hey,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say the giant trees because that is definitely similar to what I see it. Like they are huge trees, and we like live in them, but there's no walls to speak of. There's just like force fields that control the
Oh my gosh.
climate within that. But we're within these giant trees, but yet there's like you're riding hoverboards and stuff because the technology is so crazy, you know, but you're in this giant plant place. It's amazing. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's interesting. I wonder, hey, anybody who's tuning in, send us a DM. When you think of future Earth, if you've had dreams or if you've had visions, are there giant trees? Is this a correlation? I would love to know. Please DM us.
And
you can find Ogana on Instagram, and you can find me on Instagram at Shine Bright Earthling. So DM us there, and we would love to hear from you. Or just tell us about what you think New Earth is going to be like anyways. Yeah.
Like kind of like your prediction, even if you can't kind of like you did not see visions of the future, maybe your own prediction about what the new Earth is gonna be like when it's vibrations are higher, and like the vibrations of love and joy and enlightenment.
Yes,
how would it
and
be
we will
like?
share these on our Instagram live. After the release of this, we will share some of your New Earth experiences or thoughts and visions. We will share those with everybody because that's what we're going towards, you guys, this New Earth, and it's so exciting.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be a part of it.
I think that to end this episode with, did you give it enough time?
Yes, I think that is good. I think I'm excited to move into next week with the gurus because it'll kind of be a continuation to our origin stories. But we can start introducing some topics as well. Like, I'm excited to hear your gurus because some of mine, I think people are going to be like, what? That's a guru? Well, for me, it was. And I'm excited to share that with everybody. Yes.
Okay, then this has been really great. Thank you, everyone who've listened until this last second. And thank you so much, Samara, for being my co-host on this beautiful, beautiful show of ours.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you resonate with what we're doing, if you resonate with our vibe, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. You can follow us on Instagram, hashtag Ogana, hashtag Shine Bright Earthling, hashtag The Conscious View. And we will see you guys on the next time. Thanks for tuning in. Namaste.
Bye, guys. Thank you.